like the wars, and we didn't even start a lot of the wars. And we conquered these places rightfully, like it's ours.
We brought.
I mean, it's crazy that like this lady that you just saw with like a very clear like Soho, New York ass accent is like, we conquered these places. It's ours. Like, what do you mean? Like, you're literally an American. Say you conquered Manhattan. Okay, even that's ridiculous. But at least you have more of a statement there.
We built every stone here. Every stone, 3,000 years ago. All history of the Jewish people. And the Islam doesn't have history at all in this country.
That is the most delusional nonsense, dude. Okay? To say that Islam has had no impact in that region is so insane. I watched this video of regular Israeli opinions on Palestinians. It's scary how they just say openly that they want them dead. Yeah, I mean, we've watched this a long time ago about like how what the Israeli perspective is on here.
We're here in Zion Square in Jerusalem, which the government has actually declared to rename Tolerant Square. And we're just going to ask everyday Israelis what they think about the situation.
This is from 6 years ago. I've watched
You're
this before
American. Where are
on
you
the
from
broadcast.
and why did you come here?
I'm from New York, and I came here with my family when I was younger to make Aliyah, because it was always my parents' dream to come to Israel because we're religious.
So, are you American?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Why? When did you move here and why?
She said, why are you here?
Here 11 years ago. My family moved here because this is the country of the Jewish people and the future of the Jewish people, and we want to be here.
How old are you guys?
18.
We're 18 years old. Now we're here in Israel taking a leadership course, and we're going to the army for a few months to see how life's here. And then we hope to bring back some of this knowledge to our youth movements.
So you're like an internship with the army?
It's about 2 months, and they show you everything about the army.
Israel is a great place. It's a nice place. You should come and visit. I love Israel, and I feel safe here.
All that misconceptions are not true. Like, there's not people with knives every day, and there's not people exploding.
Palestinians?
Yeah. No, but pretty much the life here is really good.
For people living here, it's just normal to see people in the army walking around with guns, and you feel completely safe and protected.
I feel like we know who the threat is, and it's not coming from anyone random.
Oh, here. Well, let's watch the everyday. I covered this in May 15th of 2021, and the video has 800,000 views if you want to see it. These Israelis sound like fascist is the name of the video from back then. Been at this for a very long time. I've been covering this stuff for a very, very long time, okay?
Random, as opposed to in the rest of the world that could be anyone. Here we know who our enemy is, and we know that they are out to get us.
Who is the enemy?
Who's the enemy? That's a very good question. I don't think it's specifically any nation. I think it's the people that are so interested in being politically correct that they won't actually go after the people that are trying to cover things up.
I think that the Islam is it's a very bad disease, not just for Israel, for all around the world. We can see it.
If you ask them that same question about Judaism, that would be understandably anti-Semitic. But of course, the double standard is what I mean. And you keep saying one state solution. Bro, you are so stupid, okay? If you think that there is any way, a one state solution is quite literally the only way forward, okay? A two-state solution is impossible because you know what? They're in fucking Jerusalem right now. And half of those guys also then live in the West Bank. And the guys that live in the West Bank are way more fucking aggressive than even these guys. Okay? The guys that live in the West Bank side or directly in the West Bank are settler terrorists that have infinitely more violent perspectives. Now that's something you have to remember. There's no two-state solution without taking that 470,000 fucking population of violent settler colonialists and taking them out of there forcibly and putting them inside of Israel proper. They will never stop. They will literally terrorize their own government. They will blow up their own fucking government with the guns that the government gave them. Yeah. And also, How the fuck is there going to be a two-state solution when Gaza and the West Bank are separated? Like, what are people supposed to do? The two-state solution is what is happening right now. This is what you get with a two-state solution. Nothing. What stops them from trying to settle and expand even a one-state solution? Equal rights, equal representation. Fuck you mean? Equal rights, equal representation, having a fucking military apparatus that works at your behest as well, like instead of against you. Ridiculous. There's equal political power in that structure. That's what Israelis that want to thwart a Palestinian nation state from developing. That's what they fear the most. No, I didn't get a phone call. My food is here. That's what they fear the most. Netanyahu hates that concept. How many times have chatters come in here to ask you why the West supports Israel? Yeah, I don't know.
They all have to be Islam. If you're not Islam, they will kill you.
This is so funny from this fucking asshole sitting in the middle of Jerusalem saying that when there's fucking Christian Palestinians too. The untenable idea that keeps being thrown up as a solution for that is to create some highway between Gaza and the West Bank, underground and covered with sensors, CCTV. Again, not tenable. Yeah, you know who came up with that fucking idea originally? Jared goddamn Kushner. That's another, like, I'm losing my fucking mind. I mean, I don't know if someone else came up with it before him, but he was the one who seriously presented that. If you guys remember. That, and then, like, he was going to offer, like, additional land in a fucking non-arable, like, no agricultural production happening there, and, like, fucking on the border of Egypt without actually touching the border of Egypt. He wanted to create, like, this peninsula of, like, tech. He wanted to make a tech hub. Does anyone have the fucking link? Does anyone have the photo? It's a really funny one.
A lot of Americans don't really understand what Israel's like. We hear a lot of things in the news.
I feel like you just ate and you're getting food already. Yeah, I ate your mom, dude. No, I had a fucking half of a sandwich from yesterday, and I ordered chicken for myself and while I was waiting for it because I was hungry.
A lot of people are sympathizing with the Palestinian plight.
Oh, here it is.
Can you talk about what it's like to kind of live in this situation?
This is the brilliant plan, dude. The Vision for Peace conceptual map. Okay, are you ready for this? They have these. First of all, none of this touches the Egyptian boundary. There's only one lane into this, like, area. Okay, and then another area right here. It's supposed to be like future state of Palestine. There's a West Bank Gaza tunnel that they would build. Okay, the Gaza would have port access at Ashdod and Haifa. Palestinians would, and yeah, this is the already partitioned out West Bank. Those two areas near Egypt are supposed to be tech company towns. Yeah, I know. Hey, I really appreciate your efforts. I'm your new fan from Jordan. Hell yeah. Also, a lot of the Islamophobia in Israel is normal. Everyday people stems from separation when the only image of Palestinians you see on TV is villainizing them. Yeah, exactly. The way that Israelis see Palestinians is like the way that in apartheid South Africa, white people saw black people, or in a way that Americans saw black people in the Reconstruction period. Just like violent barbarians that are subhuman, that only want to do violence and crimes to those who they recognize have oppressed them.
Situation.
First of all, it's very hard. I'm in an organization. It's called Lahava. It's against the Jews shouldn't marry Arabs.
Did you say the organization?
Yeah, that's anti-miscegenation.
Did what again?
The organization is, the thing of it is that Jews shouldn't marry Arabs.
Shouldn't marry Arabs. Why do you feel strongly about that?
Because Jews is a special nation that God gave it to the Jews, and we don't want Jews to get mixed up together with a different nation.
I think Israelis have to take over, and they have to kick them away. It will be much better not to kill them, just to go back to Arab countries.
You can't deal with these people. There's no need to try. There's no need to talk to them. What we can do is when they do enough harm, we retaliate. That's war, and that's the situation that any Jew who lives in Israel has to deal with.
אוקיי, בסדר בעברית? פשוט מאוד, צריך להיכנס לשטחים וכל מחבל שעושה פיגוע צריך להרוג אותו, צריך להרוג את המחבלים, ואז הם יפחדו ולא יעשו לנו בעיות, והכל יהיה בסדר. הם יהיו בכפרים שלהם, אנחנו נחיה פה, לא צריך להיות ביחד, והכל בסדר.
I think also that every Arab that doing a terrorism attack, we have to kill him, and not because he's an Arab, because he's a terrorist. I think you should also kick out the family, because it's all begins with chinuch. How you say it?
Education.
It's like how you say
the kids does, you know, it's families.
I'm think that we need to... איך אומרים להעיף את הערבים? כן, תגידי לי איזה מילה.
how do we say like incredibly fascist shit? How do we say this? Fuck. I don't have the command over the English language enough to tell you how fucking Hitlerian my perspective is.
I don't know how to translate really well.
I think we should give them a country. If you're doing any problem, you just go in there to give them a country, and then it's going to be a war between countries, you know? If they're going to throw rockets, we're going to throw one big one and done.
I don't think there's any answer to it. Really? There's only one way, like, I would carpet bomb them.
You would carpet bomb them?
It's the only way you could deal with it. Like, or try to stop them a different way. It never worked.
You mean all Arabs or Gaza or?
I believe that they, like, I hope to believe they're not, but I do think they are, because I don't trust them. You can't trust them, and that's the only way I believe.
Guys, he's the most tolerant one of the bunch.
Believe that the only way is just to stop it completely.
I think that we miserable. The Arabs make a פיגועים, and we need to kill Arabs.
Okay.
We'll talk about this later.
All right, cool. Well,
Listen, like their Islamophobia and anti-Arab sentiment does not justify anti-Semitism. Okay, it doesn't. It's still a ridiculous and silly and hateful ideology. Okay, just so you understand. Not that people are doing it in the chat, but something to remember.
There is also Jewish civilians that hate Arabs. Yeah, I'm not saying, but we have also people that like the Arabs and everything, like Smolanim.
I think another thing that the Jews should have rights to hate them. I think we have the right to hate them. I don't see a reason why not. I wouldn't trust any of them.
To better understand this mentality, I also talked to Ronnie Barkin, a Jewish Israeli citizen who grew up in the country and is now an ardent critic of the notion of a Jewish state.
Like anyone growing up in Israel, I went through the whole indoctrination mechanism. And we are being trained to be soldiers from kindergarten, literally from kindergarten. The moment I realized I managed to sort of overcome that indoctrination, then everything became very clear, because the situation is crystal clear. One of the main successes of Israeli propaganda is to convince the world that the situation is complicated. But it's far from being complicated. It's probably the least complicated conflict in the world today.
Yep.
And it's all about basically those who have the power, those who oppress and subjugate and tread over the indigenous people of the land who have been oppressed and subjugated and expelled from their land. And this is what it's about. The situation here is not very different other than the way it is perceived in the world and among Israelis.
Yeah, and anyone who's well read on the situation that doesn't immediately want to take on the side of Israel will openly tell you that it's not very complicated. But the side that is doing the oppression and those who want to defend that side are like, oh, it's so complicated. It's not.
Society themselves, they like to perceive themselves as being something else, as being, liberal and progressive and all of that. And I also thought of myself as such until I realized that actually, this is not the case. The case is very clear, and I'm not on the right side of history. And that's when, the moment I managed to overcome this type of brainwashing, then the rest was very easy. The State of Israel is all about creating a place which is for one select group and only that. It's not only...
By the way, once you once you eliminate that mystery, you can go in the other direction as well. Like the liberal notion that like this is simply something that has to happen because Arabs are backwards and scary is what prevents a lot of people from recognizing that it's inherently a fascist ideology. However, some people do actually demystify the horrifying nature of an apartheid structure and then become even more ardent supporters of it, like the Itamar Ben-Gvirs of the world, who are like, no, this is sick. Like, it's time to do more fucking death. Like, you know?
The fact that they wanted to take over, to usurp the land and the resources and all of that, it's also about this exclusive nature of the place, that this is ours and only ours. And even any Palestinian being born in Israel, even if they're Israeli citizens, is already regarded as some sort of a threat to the state. The need to segregate, the need to separate and not to interact with Palestinians is part of Israeli identity. So we have to understand that Israeli identity depends on denying Palestinian identity and denying either the existence of Palestinians altogether or at the very least denying their identity, their culture, and so on. And also, right after the ethnic cleansing of Palestine, right after the Palestinians were expelled from their homes and became refugees, the very next thing that happened was that there was a concerted effort of mass looting of books and other cultural artifacts from Palestinian homes, which was led by the National Library in Israel. So it's for a reason that when we say existence is resistance for Palestinians, this is true. Just by very existing on their land, this is an act of resistance in itself. Even more so when they actually claim their rights, claim their identity, do cultural work, like produce Palestinian culture, that is an act of war.
After learning a lot in Jewish history and Israel,
is saying something that I don't even talk about quite that much, but a lot of the Israeli food and things that like they present is not coming from the very diverse Jewish background from all different parts of the world, but instead taking a lot of the Palestinian traditional foods and presenting it as like Israeli food. I mean, hummus is a great fucking example. Like you think motherfuckers in Poland were eating hummus, dog? You think German motherfuckers were eating hummus? Like, no. Now, of course, there isn't. That doesn't mean that there weren't like Arab Jews that were eating it for sure, right? Falafel, hummus, yeah, zatar.
History, I've like seen that people make.
But those Arab Jews ate it because they're Arab, not because they're Jewish. Yes.
A big deal about a lot of different areas, but if you look back, like correct me if I'm wrong, if you look back at the history, the areas, these places are like really rightfully ours. Like if it was any other country that would have conquered these places or taken over these places, nobody would make a big deal. It's just because it's Israel and there's anti-Semitism and everything.
They kicked us about 2,000 years ago, and we came back. We have Jerusalem. We built every stone here. Every stone, 3,000 years ago. Over here,
This all is 3,000 years ago?
this is the city of David. 2,500 years ago. All history of the Jewish people. And the Islam doesn't have history at all in this country.
It's always like myth making that the second half immediately has to be like insanely Islamophobic. That is the most delusional nonsense, dude. Okay? To say that Islam has had no impact in that region is so fucking insane. I don't know. I mean, it's just straight up fucking Islamophobic.
I think that they should actually look at a history book and look at the progression of history and who occupied Israel, go further back. So if it could be that the Palestinians occupied Israel, that's true, but who occupied that before that? And if you keep going back to the times of like the Bible, you'll see that it was indeed the Jews that did occupy.
Where are the Palestinian people during 4,000 years under the Ottoman? Answer me.
Well, I'm the journalist here, so I don't.
And how God punished is the sins by other people. He said, he sent the Nazis, he sent, and now he sent Palestinians.
Okay.
But it's really rightfully ours if you look at
He goes, okay.
and at, like the wars, and we didn't even start a lot of the wars, and we conquered these places rightfully, like it's ours.
We brought.
We didn't start any of these wars. We conquered these places rightfully. It's ours.
The settlements in the, by Gaza, you know, all the Gush Katif strip.
Gave Gaza back.
Well, we gave part of Israel. It's not that it's not Gaza. It's we do things.
I mean, it's crazy that like this lady that you just saw with like a very clear fucking like Soho, New York ass accent is like, we conquered these places. It's ours. Like, what do you mean? Like, you're literally an American. Okay, say you conquered Manhattan. Okay, even that's ridiculous. But at least you have more of a statement there. What I mean. You have more history there, at least. In Manhattan, you have a longer history.
For peace.
I think that the Jews came here, they took this land, and this is our land now, and I don't think there should be here no Arabs. Like Arabs, they want, we gave them Gaza, they should go live there quietly if they want. They should go back to Iraq, I don't know, to wherever they want. But this is a place that God gave it to the Jews, and
It's so funny, because this little 14-year-old Fortnite shithead is most likely an Arab Jew. Like, it's such a funny thing for him to say, especially like incredibly high likelihood that he's an Arab Jew, right? And he's like, yeah, go back to the Palestinians that lived here for fucking hundreds of years, go back to Iraq or something. And it's like, bro, what are you saying?
we don't want the Arabs to be here.
And before they accuse anyone of occupying, they should actually look back and look at history.
So you wouldn't call any of this occupied territory?
No, I think that whatever deals were made and wars were fought, they took the land, and that's the way things work.
At least she's saying they.
I mean, would you call America occupied by Americans because the British used to rule?
The people who kicked the Jews out of Israel were the Arabs. 1,400 years later, we come back. Now, I'm not saying that we can blame the people living here for...
But you are saying that. And also, what the fuck? Bro, what is this nonsense, bro? The Arabs did that? What the fuck? That's not even real. What do you mean?
What happened? But you gotta accept that that's some kind of divine justice, that their great-great-great-great-grandfathers kicked my great-great-great-grandfather out of here, and then we come back, and all of a sudden they're like, well, no, we don't want it, it's not fair. They took the land from us.
He's kind of base. He's saying the Romans are Arab, which, you know, I mean, they're brown enough. He said, why is Sanji in Jerusalem? Don't say that. Sanji would never do that.
Not the Romans, and not the Persians, and not the Byzantines. It was Arabs who took this land from Jews. And so, yeah, we came back and we took what was rightfully ours.
Besides the fact that before the Jews came to here in the late 1800s, early 1900s, it was like a barren land. Like, because the Jews came here, it started to like flourish or whatever and become actually, like, people started planting things and making settlements in all these places. If the Jews never came here, then it'd be in the same place it was like 200 years ago, or not where it is.
This is perhaps one of the grossest fucking takes, because it's like, it's the Jewish supremacist attitude where it's like Arabs like to blow up shit and live in sewage, Jews like to build, right? That's what Ben Shapiro said. It's insanely racist, and it's also completely false. Okay? The areas that Jewish people were allowed to occupy originally in their immigration campaign, led by British mandate, was not exactly habitable land. There was not a lot of agricultural opportunities there for the Jews. And not only that, but also the major cities, like these beautiful fucking cities, dude. If you look at half of the goddamn cities that Jewish people now live in Israel proper, those were massive cities, like hubs with ports and culture and movie theaters and awesome amenities that Palestinian Arabs lived in, that they were fucking forced out of their homes inside of. Like the idea that Jewish people built everything here is completely false. It's so fucked up. It's so gross. If you actually saw the markets, the nightlife, the shops, the bazaars, the fucking movie theaters, the art, these communities were vibrant. And they were beautiful. It's disgusting to just like act as though they did not exist. It's really fucked up. Half of the buildings in Jaffa and Haifa, exactly. Half of those fucking more than half of those, every single building in those fucking cities are much older than the people living in them now, okay? They've been around for a significantly longer time. They love denying the history and culture of Palestine, then they have the fucking nerve to take the cuisine and music and style. They steal the embroidery too, yeah.
Today. And so the Jews came here and they started making it better for also the Arabs. And
I mean, think about it this way. First of all, gross. Again, super gross. Think about it this way. Think about what they did after the ethnic displacement campaign in Nakba. They burned down some of these villages, the Arab villages, and burned the olive trees that existed, these olive orchards that existed everywhere, okay? Planted pine trees that were not even that were not even like region specific. It's not even good for the area. Non-native trees were planted specifically so that it had a more European look. That, for me at least, is very symbolic. I feel like it shows exactly what the early Zionist movement was all about. Pineapple in Europe, huh? Pine trees, not pineapple. I don't know if you know this, but pines and pineapple are different things. They wanted to remove the Arabic culture. In areas that they did not completely destroy, they gave new names, Hebrew-sounding names, to old Arab historic landmarks. It feels like there's a lot of hatred and resentment there in the inception of the Israeli nation state. And it's really interesting to think about because like these are people that did not do anything to the Jewish people as a whole, or, the Zionists even. Like, they didn't do nothing, dude. They were just there.
they only start to be an issue because the Arabs started to make it more of an issue.
How many people think like you? What is the state of the left wing within Israeli society?
So the people who think like me are a negligible few, and I would argue that there is no left in Israel and never ever existed. What you have are those self-proclaimed leftists, liberal Zionists, who basically speak the language of peace and human rights and so on in order to sugarcoat their racism and supremacy. And they speak a very different language than the acting government, for example, because the acting government is clearly a right-wing government. They are shameless about their racist attitudes and so on. They say this is ours and only ours. Many of them are decent enough to say, yes, there was the ethnic cleansing of Palestine, and that's a good thing. The problem is that we haven't finished the job, that there are still Palestinians left in Palestine. With the other type of Zionists, with the so-called left in Israel, we cannot even agree about the basic facts. But for them, in order to feel that they are both Zionist and moral at the same time, they have to keep lying to themselves all the time, every moment of every day. So they have perfected this whole discourse of lies in order to lie to themselves and also in order to lie to the international community, in order to justify their existence here in that.
I think the occupation does have a role, a big role and important. I don't think there should be no occupation at all, but in the occupation things needs to be more human.
Do you get called a leftist a lot?
Yeah, and I am a leftist.
Is leftist a slur sometimes?
Yes, it is. It is not a good way to be called in Israel.
Israel doesn't want to compromise on security. They have to do a blockade. They have to kind of cut this.
Like, come on, dog. This dude is literally like, my boy, you're an accountant that worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers for like 15 years in Manhattan. What the fuck are you doing right now? What's going on? Like, he's just like over there being like, Israel's right to defend itself unconditionally. It's like, dude, what is going on?
Tough. It's, it's ridiculous what people have to go through there, but it's also ridiculous what we have to do to keep ourselves safe.
We don't want to fight with them. But if they ask for it, they will get it. And we're much stronger, much stronger. We are behave very gently and morally, very gently with them.
It could get a lot worse, is what you're saying.
If the Russians was here, 2 days, they will kill all of them. If the Americans will be here, they will kill them 2 days. They don't care.
I like the idea that, like, in his mind, he's saying, like, they're significantly more moral in their ethnic cleansing campaign than Americans. Like, who's letting you do the ethnic cleansing, dog? Americans. Like, what do you mean? You're doing it with the American weapons and the American go-ahead anyway. They just outsourced it to you.
About human rights, they don't care about nothing.
Israel's holding back.
Very, very.
But it's war, and civilians get killed in war, and it's a horrible, on their side, less on our side, but at the same time, we put money into protecting ourselves.
Well, look, the refugees, their situation.
Yeah, dude, Palestine wanted a fucking Iron Dome. And Israel totally allowed it to happen, but then they were like, haha, instead of an Iron Dome and bomb shelters, we're going to spend this money on evil. I like the idea that Israel's like, yeah, we spend our money on missiles. Okay. But then you fucking turn around and get mad at Hamas for doing the same thing. Israeli missiles, that's good. Defensive. Paid for by the United States of America. Palestinian missiles, bad. Wrong. Iranian. Fails 15% of the time. Does not have the 90% interception success rate that the Iron Dome has. It doesn't cost $4 billion a year. Israeli missiles, defensive, good. Palestinian missiles, offensive, very bad. Kills real humans. Israeli missiles doesn't kill humans, kills Palestinians.
It's horrible. But no other nation in the world gets the refugee status the Palestinians do. The Palestinians, third generation people, are still considered refugees.
You know what's really funny about that? That's how bad, like, the Israeli devastation has been. And yet, instead of having that be a moment for self-reflection from this fucking goober, he just continues on saying, like, well, the Palestinian Arab is a unique type of, inferior being. Different than the other inferior beings that have been made refugees due to not being powerful.
Refugees.
I had friends that were...
Dude, privileged refugee literally is an oxymoronic statement. It's like saying privileged slave, okay? It's literally like saying the American slave had a profound amount of privilege. After all, sometimes there would be less whippings on Thursdays. Like, what the fuck? What do you mean, privileged refugee? What are you saying? How does one become a refugee? How? How does one stay a refugee? Violence, man. It's the same shit as slavery. It's violence. It's subjugation.
Canadian, they went on their passports. They wanted to see what the refugee camps were. They wanted to see what it was all about. They came back. They said it's nothing what I imagined it.
Like better than they imagined? Or?
They said people were driving around with nice cars. People had nice houses, villas, things like that. They thought people were being oppressed, like living in tents. It was like they probably were, like maybe 10, 15.
Damn. Yeah. Dude, Palestinian refugee camps are sick. First of all, let me tell you something. If Palestinian refugee camps were sick, Israel would take it over, okay? Sorry, that's just the fucking truth. That's how you know that shit ain't sick, dog, okay? They'd be like, oh, this is mine now. This is my fucking camp. Sorry, this is mint. I forgot. There's a 8,000-year-old coin I found in your camp. It's actually also, turns out this is also Israel. Fuck, my bad, bro, okay? And for the Jordanians out there who think that their days are perfectly solid, your days are numbered too, bitch. Okay? Remember, Transjordan, motherfucker. Remember, one day, Lebanon and Jordan might also be part of, Israel proper. Who knows? But yeah, the idea that, like, that refugees are living in fucking mint, Palestinian refugees are doing great, is of course, insanely. Luxury car comments, I was like, Reagan out welfare comment. Yeah, this is like the same thing that racists say on Fox News when they see fucking refugees coming in, like migrants coming in. Thank you for calling me a bitch. You're welcome. Some motherfucker in Jordan just took that personally and is like, that's really fucked up, dude. Actually, you called me a bitch. It's a universal racist lie.
15, 20 years ago, like in the past.
For them, in order for them to be Zionist and moral, in order for them to have a Jewish and democratic state, they needed, first of all and foremost, to create a Jewish majority by force, by driving away the indigenous people from their land. And this is how the state was founded. And immediately afterwards, they created a whole legal system that will make sure that those who have been expelled will never be allowed back, and those who remained on their land, because not everyone was expelled, will never be equal citizens. Unfortunately, what we hear on mainstream media, this so-called discourse or so-called debate between the right and the left is about that. It's about, do we want a large Israel, which is Arab-free, or do we want a small Israel, which is Arab-free? This is the debate that's taking place.
Last question. There's this whole international movement of leftists and activists who want to boycott Israel for human rights violations. Being here, seeing that, and what do you just think about that?
I think the BDS movement, the leaders of the BDS movement, or everyone that thinks that Israel is bad.
This is what the camps look like in Lebanon?
Palestinian refugees trapped in a 1 square kilometer walled camp in Lebanon. But Ain al-Helwi also shelters armed factions that have repeatedly battled for control and power. The latest truce has been holding for more.
Damn, bro. These guys are fucking popping, dude. God damn. Seems like they're living in luxury, brother. You got fucking, first of all, think about how sick it is when someone blows up a storefront, because that's like air conditioning. You know what I mean? Now you have bullet holes. Again, that's good clean air that you can get. And yeah, look, she's got a fake Chanel bag.
In a week, but there's no guarantee the fighting has ended for good. Repairs and reconstruction to an estimated 400 homes and businesses, as well as facilities run by the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, have not begun in earnest. Staff aren't able to reach half of the camp to assess the damage, particularly a school complex, which was one of the front lines during the recent violence.
Reason for that is it is still too insecure. We have armed fighters, including around our installations, inside our installations apparently as well. One school complex, which reportedly has been violated, hosts over 3,000 children. It is very unlikely that these children will be able to go back to the school when the school starts in October.
UN assistance is vital for Palestinians who are denied Lebanese government services. But the agency has been struggling with a budget crisis for years.
The agency as a whole does not have a view on its income beyond September. So any additional costs that are incurred through the hostilities in Ain al-Helwa and any damage and humanitarian support will have to be found in addition to the money that we already need to run our regular services.
The latest outbreak of violence was the deadliest in years. It involved the mainstream Fatah movement and a group calling itself the Muslim Youth. People in the camp are in many ways held hostage to the divisions within the Palestinian leadership. There's criticism of a long-standing agreement that
They even have political infighting. I mean, truly a sign of robust democracy. Up, chat. Look at that. That's a mercy, baby. Yeah, that's a merc. And up. Another one. I love the special status Palestinians have been given historically. The special status of being able to live in fucking bombed out, hollowed out apartment complexes. Never being able to return to your fucking home, dude. It's so sick. I've seen old men and women crying, pulling out from their fucking literal personal briefcases that they brought with them in 1948 to those fucking hollowed out, bombed out apartments, where they pull out photos of their homes, the deed to their homes. Okay? Keys that they still have, that they've kept with them. Disgusting, in tears, thinking about a life that they had that was just stolen from them overnight. Why is the left filled with so much shit libs that push you must be LGBTQ plus to get support from Western leftists? Isn't that cultural imposition on Palestine? What are you talking about? Anyone that thinks that another person's emancipation is conditional on the fact that they are like ideologically aligned with them is a fucking dumb bitch, okay? They're not real leftists, I guess, or real principled people. I don't know what you are talking about. It's so stupid. It's especially stupid when considering how much anti-LGBT sentiment exists in America. You know what I mean? Duke it out with your own fucking radical elements in your own goddamn country before going, I'm sorry, Palestine. Do you not want to be fucking bombed mercilessly by Israel? Time to suck a cock on camera. Do it. Suck one dick right now. Is that going to stop the fucking gay bombs coming from Israel? Is that what's going to happen? Should we fucking nuke Florida?
Prevents Lebanon's army from imposing law and order inside the camps. But
More luxury.
there's little political will among Lebanon's parties to disarm the factions. Those parties are linked to regional players who use inter-Palestinian tensions to advance their own agendas. Home to tens of thousands of Palestinians, Ain al-Halwi is still very much a war zone, with many fearing it is not a matter of if, but when the next round of fighting will.
Anyway, I'm glad that you guys got to see the lap of luxury.
If they can, they should read up about the topic, the other side, and they should come here and see how everybody's comfortable.
People right now, they're looking at Israel and they're calling it an apartheid state. And Israel is not an apartheid state.
Yeah, no, totally, dude. Thank you, PricewaterhouseCoopers' very own motherfucker named Hank, coming from goddamn Manhattan, like lived in fucking Lower East Side for most of his fucking life, okay? Like, Israel's not an apartheid state. What the fuck are you talking about? Why are you there? Why can you walk there, but Palestinians who lived there for hundreds of fucking years can't? Motherfucker, you got here from Manhattan. Why are you allowed to walk there, but some dude who lived there for 100 years can't?
There's places, I mean, my family from 5 generations ago, they were from Jenin. You can't find one Jew in Jenin right now. I mean, it's totally...
Oh, Jesus Christ. First of all, that is not a Jenin accent, okay? I'm sorry. That's just not a Jenin accent. I don't think this motherfucker is still from Jenin. So that's number one. Number two, I love when Zionists present this argument like, there's not a single Jew in Gaza. It's like, bro, you want to fucking be there? You think that it's sick? It's nice, dude? It's so dumb.
Jew-free. So if you want to think about a racist apartheid state, it seems it's more, in my opinion, coming from their side.
And just a response, I guess, to kind of this international movement, the BDS movement, and also the movement that says settlements are illegal, they're encroaching on Palestinian.
I do love the idea of like Irish Americans going back to Ireland and forcibly taking land from just Irish people living there, being like, sorry, 700 years ago, my ancestors used to live here and they were indentured servants. This is my house now. You know what I mean? Being like, yeah, this is my house. This is supposed to be, I'm a little Irish. Fucking sick.
Land, can you respond to that accusation?
I think the response would be two-part. The first part would be very simple. Nobody gives Turkey problems for their settlements in Cyprus. It's an anti-Semitic thing. Maybe they don't know that they...
Yeah, famously. The entire world is like, Northern Cyprus, perfectly fine with us. Everyone famously always says Northern Cyprus is sick. And totally valid by the rest of the world's standards. Okay? What a fucking stupid example. It's literally like, it's complicated trade relations for years. Like, it's not even remotely close. You perked up when you heard that? Yeah, because it's so fucking stupid. It's an incredibly stupid take. There's not a single fucking country that recognizes Northern Cyprus. Actually, you know what? Israel might. Because, casino operations. Does Israel... Wait, let me see if Israel recognizes Cyprus, actually. Cyprus-Israel relations refers to the bilateral relations between Cyprus and Israel. Israel has an embassy in Nicosia. Northern Cyprus is famously recognized by every UN member state. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's any country that... Who recognized Northern Cyprus? In the 1980s and 90s, Cyprus expressed concern over Israel's then close defense relationship with Turkey. Cyprus outwardly backed the Palestinians in the Arab-Israeli conflict and officially recognized Palestine as a de facto state based. Cypriot First Lady Androula Vassiliou, wife of President George Vassiliou, was declared a persona non grata in Israel when a delegation was attempted to meet Yasser Arafat, who was then under house arrest. The second Israelis are streaming into Cyprus and trying to buy anything in sight. Foreign relations of Northern Cyprus. Northern Cyprus is recognized only by Turkey, a country which facilitates many of its contacts with the international community. By the way, Northern Cyprus is basically just an area for casinos now. Some of the sickest ones. Some of the best Turkish casinos, apparently. I've never been. That's what I've heard. Kick.com ass island. KKTC'yi tanıyan ülkeler listesi. KKTC, Kuzey Kıbrıs Türk Cumhuriyeti. Oh shit, Azerbaijan, Pakistan, Libya, Bangladesh, Gambia, Kosovo, Somalia, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Oman and Yemen. Oman says Northern Cyprus on the 15th of November in 1983 stated or declared themselves as independent. However, this independence movement was not recognized by the UN Security Council, and the UN Security Council's 541 declaration declared the Northern Cyprus Turkish Republic and its independence movement to be declared null and void. Stop speaking an imperialist language and start speaking today's imperialist language. Yeah, I mean, I speak both. But yeah. So I guess technically they do have more countries that recognizes it now. After the Republic of Cyprus became a member of the European Union, the southern part of the island became part of the customs union to the EU. The northern part is excluded from the customs union. In spite of that, the Green Line regulations are intended to ease trade relations between North Cyprus and the EU. Despite the lack of formal diplomatic or legal relationship in practice, a reasonably cooperative working relationship has been built up between the administrative services and the police in both parts of the island. There are 9 border crosses between Northern Cyprus and the Republic of Cyprus. Since May 2004, some tourists have taken flying to Republic of Cyprus, then directly crossing the Green Line to vacation in Northern Cyprus. Oil exploration in the East Mediterranean became a problem between the administrations of the North and South side since 2000s. The Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus fully supports Turkey's bid to join the European Union. Anyway, a funny thing to just like a funny thing to consider, because he just said that.
They hate Jews, but they give us so much trouble. The UN only talks about Israel. What about North Korea? What about...
I've heard this so much. Yeah, dude. What about North Korea? Fuck is North Korea doing? Oh, what can they do? What more can you do to North Korea? What can you do to North Korea that hasn't already been done to Korea in general? You know what I mean? I don't get it. I didn't know there was a North Cyprus until today. I feel cheated on in school. Why the fuck would anybody talk about North Cyprus, dude? Like, he's like, wow, I can't believe the UN is not talking about North Korea. Meanwhile, like, what can happen to North Korea that hasn't happened to it already? What are they going to do? Put more sanctions? The fuck? You can't. It's like, not because it would be a severe human rights violation. There's just no more sanctions to place. You know what I mean?
About Russia. Then the second thing would be to say is that...
Even from the UN?
Completely from the UN. I mean, come on. You're talking about that we're worse than the North Korean dictatorship? Like, nobody in the world thinks that. So those people in the UN and all these peace activists, I mean, look.
He also said Russia, which, again, same as North Korea. Like, historically speaking, what the Western world did to the USSR and to Russia in general, like the development of Russia as a nation state in the aftermath of dissolution of the USSR is quite literally an incredibly brutal, exploitative, shock doctrine ass strategy of parsing the entire country and selling it off to whichever Western loyalist, like Western banker backed loyalists would steal everything. Russia, as it stands currently, is already a fallen nation that is a Western project. What more do you want? You say Jeffrey Sachs, you murderer, but he's kind of like goated at being a Democracy Now! Person now. He's like one of my favorite Democracy Now! Guys after, you know, cutting up the entirety of the fucking USSR. He became a...
She's a woman. She's walking around however she wants here in Israel, right? There's female genital mutilation.
Wait, what? Wait, okay, first of all, kind of weird for you to say that, because, listen, brother, your people, my people, we still do the male genital mutilation. Like, what's happening? Like, very weird for us to be having this conversation, okay? Very odd Man, we're both fucking circed up. We are both quirked up white boys who are circed up white boys, okay? We're brothers in bond like that. That's number one. Number two, the greatest danger for a Palestinian woman is not like Islamic repression or whatever. It's the IDF. It's bombs. Also, another thing to talk about with respect to genital mutilation is what the Israeli state used to do to Ethiopian Jews. Forcible, not circumcision actually, but forcible sterilization under the guise of giving them vaccines.
In Egypt, not very far from here. Why don't people talk about that?
I think that like we should have not more rights. I think we have rights to build more houses for our citizens. And like a lot of things that Israel gets criticism for, other countries will never get it.
אני רוצה להגיד פה לראש ממשלה פה בארץ, בישראל, אין מצב שיהיה פה שלום בארץ. אי אפשר לעשות איתם שלום, הם תמיד שונאים אותנו. אם אי אפשר לעשות שלום והמצב ככה לא יכול להישאר, אז צריך לטפל בהם בדרכים אחרות, אין מה לעשות.
It's irrelevant. The views of Israelis about the situation are totally irrelevant to the question of how do we change the situation. Did it matter what white people think about apartheid in South Africa at the time? The question is, how do we end apartheid and how do we end Israeli crimes? You know, every Israeli official will claim to speak on behalf of the Jewish people and will even demand of Palestinians to recognize Israel's right to be a Jewish state and so on. I don't recognize Israel's right to be a Jewish state because it is not Jewish by religion. It is only Jewish by supremacy. Israel is Jewish just like South Africa was white in the exact same context, with the exact same meaning. And obviously any decent person around the world should oppose that because it is inherently racist and more than that. And it also happens to be very much against international law. So when we talk about Israel as an apartheid state, even though it's not exactly like South Africa, it neatly falls under the legal definition of the crime of apartheid, which is a very serious crime.
Whoa. That's a loaded term, actually. I wanted to go through it, but the International Criminal Court's definition of the crime of apartheid, Article 7 of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court defines crimes against humanity as, for the purpose of the statute, crimes against humanity means any of the following acts when committed as a widespread or systematic attack directed against any civilian population with knowledge of the attack, murder, extermination, enslavement, deportation, and forcible transfer of population, imprisonment, or other severe deprivation of physical liberty in violation of fundamental rules of international law, torture, rape or sexual slavery, enforced prostitution, persecution against any identifiable group collectively on political, racial, national, ethnic, cultural, or religious gender as defined in paragraph 3, or on other grounds that are universally recognized as impermissible under international law, enforced disappearance of persons, the crime of apartheid. Ooh, ding, ding, ding. Later in Article 7, the crime of apartheid is defined as means inhumane acts of a character similar to those referred to in paragraph 1 committed in the context of institutionalized regime of systematic oppression and domination by one racial group over any other racial group or groups committed with the intention of maintaining that regime.